Welcome to the Community Radio Network. Follow us always via social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CRN Sports. Plus, listen to the new CRN 87.9 and still anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN.
Let me tell you about MPM, McAllister Precision Marketing. They can assist up-and-coming racers with career advancement, promotion, and assist in sponsorship procurement. MPM also has media and professional etiquette training. They work with premier driver development teams and limited late models to late models. And they also help the teams to make it up to the levels of K&N, ARCA, Truck Series, and even NASCAR Xfinity. Contact Tanya McAllister today at McAllister Precision Marketing, 803-361-6199. Today, get on the board with MPM.
CrateInsider.com is your one source for crate racing tech and more. Whether you currently race with a crate engine or you are thinking about getting into the sport, our website has what you need. CrateInsider.com has tech videos, interviews with experts, and the best products in the industry. Dyno tested and proven, so we know they are the best products for crate engines. Visit CrateInsider.com today to get on the fast track to victory lane.
This is Finish Line.
This episode is an exclusive production solely for the private, non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any publication, reproduction, transmission of the accounts without the express written consent or permission is restricted and prohibited. To hear this replay or other previous podcasts, download on iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, and TuneIn. As always, this show is for you. Thank you for listening.
This is Finish Line. Undisputed, unrealistic, unscripted, and unrehearsed. This is Finish Line, a weekly podcast talking about the positive and negative of motorsports, asking the questions to drivers, promoters, and personalities, getting the information and responses of the sport others dare not to ask or even discuss. This is Finish Line. This radio podcast is from the heart, an in-depth analysis of everything in NASCAR, NHRA, IHRA, IndyCar, grassroots motorsports, asphalt, dirt, drag racing, karting, tractor pulling, boat racing, demolition derbies, and much more. From touring events to national, regional, weekly, and more. This is the podcast where the bull stops here. Whether it's asphalt, dirt, or drag racing, or anything else in life, there is always a finish line. Now, he's a respected veteran broadcaster with over 20-plus years experience calling all forms of sports for public address, TV, and radio, from NASCAR to the grassroots. Please welcome your host, Wesley Outland. This is Finish Line.
Hell, I think I lost my spot there. And while we're getting ready to come live on the air, you see what I'm doing, like live on the show? You know what I'm doing, Charles Wooten? Posting to the masses of social media that we're live, besides what we have on the radio. Welcome to the February 1st edition of the Finish Line Motorsports Show. Charles Wooten is beside me. Let's just say this. We're glad we're at least on the air today. Charles, have you froze up like a cucumber yet?
No. Well, yes. Last night I did when I was dealing with the pool. So bad it froze the camera. That's why I'm a blob. You can't see me.
Maybe the better word needs to be popsicle instead of cucumber, okay? I just caught that.
Yeah, I didn't know cucumbers froze, but...
Oh, well, put it out in the farm long enough, I guess it will. How you doing, man? So is Texas getting snow? Is it a winter wonderland, or is it just cold as hell in Texas right now?
Well, it's not a winter wonderland. It is more like Frozen, the movie. It's just cold.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Sure. If I had any snow. They predicted we would have freezing rain, snow, ice, all the works, and it is coming. But there's too much dry air here in Texas from all the hot air that goes on around here apparently, and it's not hitting the ground. It's not even, you can't even see it. It's just dying in the air somewhere, so it's not here yet.
Well, you keep on talking. I'm posting.
Okay, well, I'll keep talking there. We'll undo our blur.
Hey, there you go. You were blurry there for a second. What happened? Is it just the weather?
No, I put a blur on because I hadn't had a shower this morning because I've been dealing with snow.
Okay.
Or at least I figured to be. What are you talking about? Look at me. I look like awful.
I mean, you're not shaving.
Well, that's true. That is the point. I am very unshaven.
We have to paint a picture for those listening in radio land. So you definitely got the grizzly look going on, though.
Yes,
But where would I be without you, though, Charles?
Probably just on the radio, I'd imagine.
Hey, listen, so weather pending, we were wondering if we were going to have Finish Line on the video side, or at least on the radio, and we're ready to go here. Welcome to the February 1st edition of the Finish Line Motorsports Show. Fox Sports Radio affiliates in the Carolinas, Community Radio Network in Johnston County, North Carolina, 87.9 FM, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and then all podcast platforms for replay when we go off the air. We're also, thanks to LSR Productions and Rocket Racing Media, showing you the video on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Wesley Outland. Charles Wooten is alongside, and we have got a great guest panel for the February 1st edition. What did you say, Charles? Isn't this episode 5 of the new year? And we've already sped through the month of January.
Yes, this is episode 5 of 2023, and I'm looking forward to our last guest. And I mean the last one. For the ones out there watching, his name is Both, and I'm looking forward to seeing Both on the show.
No, everybody, Doug Rice from the Performance Racing Network is just that darn good with what he does with his NASCAR analysis. And because it is the firing of the NASCAR season this weekend of the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum, I have decided to have him on for 2 segments with Charles and I for 2:20 Eastern Time. With that said, we got to get hour number 1 out of the way. Here is your guest lineup for February the 1st. Coming up on Finish Line today, we're going to kick things off in just a few moments with the driver out of Hayden, Alabama, Mr. Augie Grill, winner back in victory lane in the car number 43. Normally you see him a lot in the 112. The 43 driver out of Alabama winning the Speed Fest for the Pro Late Models. We will have him on first. Coming up after that at 1:30 will be, of course, Tyler Clem from, of course, Tampa, Florida, winner of the USCS Outlaw Thunder Tour Sprint Car Germ-Free Shootout at Volusia in Florida over the weekend. He'll be coming up. Bubba Pollard is coming up at 1:45 to recap his Super Late Model win at the Champion Racing Association ASA Southern Super Series Speed Fest in Cordell as well. By the way, doing stats this afternoon before we came on the air, counting this Saturday's win at Cordell, Charles Wooten, besides weekly racing, it is his 150th career Big Touring National Series win. Hour number 2 will find Isabella Robusto and Doug Rice of the Performance Racing Network. All that coming up here on Finish Line for February the 1st. To elaborate more on Isabella Robusto from Fort Mill, South Carolina, she is going to be late model racing this year for Lee Falk Racing and Development. In addition to that, she also announced racing some ARCA events. She tested with ARCA a few weeks ago, and Toyota Racing Development driver again as well. Let's go to the phone lines and get things kicked off with our first guest of the afternoon. In Alabama, we go to, can I say Roll Tide? Are you a Bama fan? Are you a Crimson Tide fan?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's not Auburn. Not Auburn.
No,
Roll Tide.
no.
Augie Grill, it is an honor to have you on Finish Line. First time ever on the program at that, my friend. Good catching up with you today.
Yeah, you too. It's good to have a reason to be on a talk show. So that's good deal.
Hey, how long has it been since a win for Augie Grill? Obviously, I know you've had some success at Five Flags Speedway, Montgomery, but when was the last time car 112 of the 43 went to victory lane like yourself at Speedfest this past Saturday in the Pro Late Models?
The last race I won in a late model was actually 2019, the Alabama 200 at Montgomery. So it's been a long dry spell, but hopefully we got the ship righted, and we'll hopefully be a little more competitive the rest of the year.
So listen, we're going to go full screen with you here in a minute as I'm going to continue to post, advertise you being on social media. But I got to ask you this question. Being in the 112 to then moving to the 43. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, is that the same car that Daniel Dye and Justin South have driven in the past? Was that the car you drove?
It's not Daniel Dye, just Justin South. I've kept their
Okay.
cars up a good bit over the years, and it's basically been living here for a couple of years. And Justin had a few things come up, so his dad Jeff asked me if I minded driving it at Speedfest. He had already paid for the entry, so I said, sure, why not? Let's go try it.
Well, it turned into being a big win for you, obviously. And I noticed that you got the helmet behind you. And I know you've done well at the Snowball Derby and the Snowflake 100 at Pensacola. But you just said when you came on here at introduction that you've not won a race since 2019. What was the emotions and the feelings like getting around Katie Hettinger? Because actually, while I was in Tennessee for the Fast Track Company's awards banquet, I was actually watching on Racing America the coverage of Speedfest when I could, and I saw around lap 35 or so, you kind of waited patiently, waited for Katie Hettinger to get caught up in some traffic, and we know how good the Giovanni Bramani cars are, of course, the 81, and, she's in great equipment, but you really just kind of waited patiently, made the move in turn number 3, went to the lead, and I think that's all she wrote. You never look back.
Yeah, the car started off a little tighter than I would have wanted. So it took me a few laps to get back to her bumper. She started getting a little tight and a little free off. So, I just kind of bided my time, and she kind of got caught up with the lap car there, and I was able to turn under down the back straightaway and get on by. And luckily, the car was good enough to stay the rest of the race and not really have to fend anybody off. So just hats off to to all my guys. We've been working hard. It's not like we're not working hard anymore. We just have been working in the right direction, and hopefully we've got that kind of figured out. And but my cars will be running better this year.
Never had you on Finish Line before. Can you tell us a little bit about Augie Grill and your racing background? Obviously, I know it, but for our audience and people listening on radio and TV, who Augie Grill is, definitely.
Yeah, raised by Frank Grill, chassis builder since early '70s. He was Neil Bonnet race cars for years, and then it became Grand American race cars in the mid '80s, I would say. I just worked here when I could, going through high school, and graduated high school, went to work full time here, and I always wanted to drive, but never really just sought it out. And my dad always told me if I wanted to build a car, that it was on the wall. Just I had to do it myself, and I eventually did. When I was 26, I finally ran my first race, and hate that I waited so late, but I'm kind of glad I did. I feel like my dad wouldn't have put up with the cars I tore up early in my career. So if I'd have been 15 or 16 at the time tearing cars up every week, he wouldn't have let that go very long. So anyway, it kind of worked out for the best. And here, fast forward 20 years, I'm 46 now and still driving race cars. So still getting to do what I love to do. And every now and then I get a peanut for winning a race. So it's still a lot of fun to me, and I still love working on race cars. So it's just a real fun deal.
I got to ask you this question, Augie. Ever thought about jumping into the world of dirt racing, or have you raced dirt race in your past? I know you're very successful in the world of pavement.
Yeah, a friend of mine a couple years back had a dirt car, and I went and ran a dirt race at a little place called ECM Speedway. It's Arkadelphia Speedway now, or was. And I did okay. I mean, it was a 20-lap feature. So about the time I got going and figuring out what I needed to be doing, the race was over. And, it was fun, neat to do something a little different. But I came back to work here Monday and went right back to what I was doing. I don't know. I don't like having to clean up asphalt cars. So I couldn't imagine having to clean up a dirt car every single time you go on the track.
Well, listen, a big win for you, no doubt about it. Cordell, such a unique racetrack. We tried to have Ben Sumner on last Wednesday to preview the race, and he had some, obviously, if you've ever been out in Cordell, it's out in the middle of no man's land, no signal.
Oh, yeah.
Signal is very sparse. Props to Racing America somehow, some way, the way they bring out the broadcast stream. But going back to all that. It's a very unique racetrack. What is it like to negotiate in the cockpit of that car number 43 or the 112 like you've done in years past, and, of course, going back to Victory Lane to this weekend?
It's very unique because 1 and 2 is a lot different than 3 and 4. You don't really run that place like you do anywhere else. And 2, it's pretty cool because you can run in different lines through both ends. Justin South actually won a race there last year in the same car, running outside. The car just wasn't turned around the bottom, so he moved up and it actually picked up time. So just real unique. It's, having to be real careful down the back straightaway not to dip your right sides off and wind up in the watermelon patch back there. It's just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the race Saturday, which having a good car kind of helps that. But I've raced there 2 other times in my career, and all 3 times I've had a good time racing there.
Again, we got a guest, and it's Augie Grill, and we've got my boss man in my ear and our producer, Charles Wooten in Texas. So glad he's able to have the video portion of Finish Line and on the radio as well. Listen up, Augie, for Charles. He's got a question for you.
So typically it's food related. I don't know if you can classify liquids and drinks as food, but we're going to ask anyway. So obviously, all the way here in Texas, we don't have asphalt racing, so I don't get to follow your career. But I want to know, 1, when you won that big cup trophy, and 2, if you had your choice of any beverage you could put in it and drink out of it when you won, what would it be?
I'll actually have to turn around and see. I'm not 100% positive what that trophy is. Let me look real quick.
That's the cup trophy, ain't it, from the Snowflake 100?
Actually, one of them, let's see, it's backwards for me. So the gold one is from the 2016 Snowflake, and then the other one's from the 2012 Governor's Cup at New Smyrna.
Okay,
and
that's what I was saying.
And after a race, I'd probably want to fill it with Coors Light to drink out of the cup.
There you go. Coors Light, what do you think, Charles? Coors Light? Or you thought it was going to be something more adult beverage?
Well, hey, unfortunately, my parents told me I was screwed up enough as it is, so I didn't need anything that could possibly make me do wilder things. So,
wow.
Never got to drink, but hey, that's something I'd celebrate with for sure. Get out there.
So after all of the White Russians that I consumed over the weekend in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, probably White Russians Augie Grill would be the drink that I would put in my trophy cup. But of course, I've never won anything ever in my life, so I never have a trophy.
Right. Well, White Russian, that'd probably get a little old if that cup was full of White Russians. That'd probably be a little sickening by the end of it.
Yeah, we have to drink that up very, very quickly. Hey, Augie, let's go. By the way, I want to send a shout out to your Canadian PR, Tracy Hoskins. Good friend. I've known her for a number of years. Tracy Hoskins is actually the person that helped me track you down, Augie, and then finally being able to get a hold of you last night. So thank you so much. And by the way, I hope Tracy gets to feeling better. I know she's been having some health problems, but I know she is an avid supporter of you, Augie, and all of your drivers and what you do with Great American Race Cars. And can we dabble a little bit more about what Great American Race Cars is?
Yeah, we just build and maintain asphalt late models. Have done it for, like I said, my dad actually started this place, incorporated in like 1982. So been around for a long time. We fabrication, bodies, full cars, complete cars, just you name it. If it involves a asphalt late model, we can do it here.
and pro late models at that as well. And if people don't know the difference between a super late model of pavement and a pro late model of pavement, basically it's the crate engine. Are you occupying the 604 Chevy crate engine like dirt cars do, or is it a different crate engine that Chevrolet provides? And ain't there a couple of other manufacturers that also provide crate engines in pavement racing also, Augie?
Yeah, it's pretty much just Ford and Chevrolet. There's a Ford 425 engine that there's a couple of different builders can actually work on, and then Ford actually produces a blue oval motor that is completely Ford built. But then rebuilders can rebuild them. But that's only two manufacturers that you can run in the Pro Late model.
There you go. Augie, I got to ask you this question, man. Obviously, you run super late models. You have in the past. There was a lot of buzz in the world of super late models now with the new rebranding of the American Speed Association under Bob Sargent, Joe Balish, and, of course, Tim Bryan and all the powers that be that are involved with all the super late model sanctioning bodies of the Southeast and even the world. What do you think that the same could happen for pro late models, or do you think pavement pro late model racing is perfect where it's at right now?
That's hard to say. I don't know that somewhere along the way the touring series for the super late models won't encompass the pro late models as well. Just have them as another ticket at at the racetrack. But pro late model racing I think is still pretty big. Honestly, in the last few years, I've seen numbers dwindle, and it looks like some more people are going toward the super late model world. But to say what I think, I guess in 5 years, I guess we'll still have super pro late model racing. I hope so. They keep talking about wanting to make changes in the pro late model cars or tires or motors or whatever. I don't know what's wrong with how we got it now, but I just love racing. I just want to see it prosper and make it, at least as long as I'm alive, and hopefully have for generations to be able to watch and enjoy it.
So, Augie, to elaborate on that, one of the things that have been discussed in the world of the dirt world is the creation of a national dirt late model tire, meaning that every sanctioning body in the entire country for super late models, pro late models next year will be running on one compound tire for the national dirt late models. Would you say that the same thing needs to be considered for pavement super late models and pro late models too, to maybe help with cost, Augie?
Possibly, but I don't know that that's going to be the outline answer to bring the cost down. I think a little competition somewhere along the way will, in game will wind up bringing the cost down. But tires are just part of it. There's so many costs involved in going to the racetrack anymore. It's hard to believe as many people are still doing it as there is. But it's a luxury sport. Nobody has to do it. So I'm just along for the ride as long as people are able to do it. I hope to have a job doing something involved with it.
Augie, where do you see the sport of racing going? Obviously, you said you haven't won a race since 2019 at Montgomery. That was before COVID in 2020. Obviously, I've ran into you in years past when I get to cover the Snowball Derby for Racing America, formerly Speed 51 TV, MAV TV, when I've been down there. Where do you see the sport of pavement late model racing going since where we've gone and where you've last won besides this Saturday back in 2019?
It seems to be maybe growing, having a little steam behind it. It seems to be growing a little bit. But the only thing I don't like about the super late model racing, or the pro late model racing for that matter, anymore is there's not a local following anymore. No, or down here anyway. Up north, they still have super late models on a weekly show, but down here, there's nobody that runs super late models on a regular basis. Pensacola has 4 or 5 races a year. Montgomery only has one. There's just that's why I think we don't have the numbers that we once did, because we go to race at Montgomery for super late models. There's 1 or 2 cars from Alabama is all that's there. So that's what we've lost over the years. I think is just that local following, and that touring series comes to a town that half the people in the stands have never heard of any of the drivers, and that's what I hope we can get changed here in the future. Is with all the social media and stuff, there should be avenues to be able to get fans to know all the drivers. Yeah, they know William Byron and Chase Elliott, Bubba Pollard, and hopefully me. But those other drivers that kind of pop in and pop out, they've never heard of, and it's hard to have a touring series go from place to place, state to state, and really have a good following of fans because again they've never heard of them. But hopefully we can get some of these races on some streaming things so people can kind of get a following for a driver.
Augie, it says on your Facebook from Pleasant Grove, Alabama, but I've always said you're from Hayden, Alabama. Are they right near one another?
Yeah, I grew up in Pleasant Grove. It's right here, actually, just a few miles from the shop, but I actually live in Hayden, Alabama now.
Gotcha, definitely. Well, listen, Grand American Race Cars, obviously, plugging your business. Are you staying pretty busy building race cars, or if anybody's interested, can we throw your name out there to let people know you can build a car for them?
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually, believe it or not, we've been pretty busy. It's me and I got one employee basically, and then a bookkeeper. So it doesn't take much to get us busy. But we've had a really busy winter and shop full of stuff to do right now. So hopefully that maintains the same flow, and we can get through the whole year and be somewhat busy all year.
Augie, what is your plans for the 2023 season, buddy? I know the road to the Snowball Derby is like away. I know you'll be a part of that, but what is the other things we're going to see at this year?
As usual, I'll probably just pick and choose. My next planned race is Alabama 200. I'll either run probably the 43 car or my own car, and then I'm going to run my super late model at the Rattler, middle of March. After that, I can't really say. I would like to say I'm going to run every race there is, but according to how one race goes, kind of says whether I'll go to the next one or not, and funding kind of gets tight at times. So I just kind of pick and choose. But hopefully, like I said, win this past weekend, maybe we can run really good the next two, and it'll really get me fired up to go to more, motivated to go to more. So to have an actual plan set out in place, I've never been good at that.
Well, of course, hands down, are we going to see you travel to more places this year? Obviously, with the rebranding of the ASA Southern Super Series, what Tim Bryant, Bob Sargent, all the powers that are doing with that, the ASA National Tour, will we see you at Pensacola for their big race in March?
I'm not going to make that one in March. I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row to go to the Rattler at Opp or South Alabama Speedway. So that's going to be my first outing with my super late model. I'd like some of the tracks they're going to, or some kind of on my bucket list. So I'd like to be able to get out and go to some of those. Now whether that happens or not, I can't really say, but I'd like to. I've raced Pensacola and Montgomery and Nashville and a couple others so many times. It kind of gets monotonous at times, but sometimes going to some of these new tracks just kind of gets a spark going up for me again. So hopefully we can get out and hit some of those bigger races like that.
Charles, you got anything for Augie Grill as we got a few more minutes with him before we get Tyler Clem on to talk about sprint cars at Volusia?
I got nothing. However, he said Rattler, and that just reminds me of when I went down to Grayson County Speedway, which is a dirt track here, and they proceeded to bring me a meal from Smoke on the Water restaurant. I ate it. It was really spicy. I loved it. And then they told me it was rattlesnake. So I was like, okay, well, that works. I liked it.
Now, Augie, being somebody that's ran at the Rattler, and I've been a part of the Rattler, first off, just like Cordell, Opp, Alabama, out in the middle of nowhere. Secondly, their specialty celebration is a damn rattlesnake. And that rattlesnake is with you down at Victory Lane during driver introductions. Have you ever got scared having that rattlesnake around you, Augie?
Not really scared, but very uneasy. I won the Rattler in 07 and 09, and they drape that thing across your shoulders, and I'm fine as long as it don't touch me. They let it touch my neck, and I jumped like a little girl. So yeah, I'm not big on snakes. I never have liked snakes. I can deal with any kind of other animal, but snakes are not my thing.
Me and you are on the same page. I certainly agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Augie Grill, a few more minutes with him, of course, winner at Cordell. Let's go back to the win at Cordell, man. Obviously, what was it like racing those drivers, but racing a young driver like Katie Henninger? And no doubt, this young lady is building her resume. And the way that you guys raced one another was very, very clean. No rough driving. Everybody respected one another. I thought it was a fairly clean race at Watermelon Capital over the weekend.
Yeah, I've always kind of, when I first started driving, I've always tried to treat everybody with respect and try to race everybody like they race me. Now at the end of a race, a big race, there comes a time for you might need to move somebody out of the way. But no, most of these kids coming up now, they've run more races when they're 14 than I have in my entire career. So they all got a whole lot of experience when they first jump into late model. So, they all got car control. They're all in pretty good equipment nowadays. So, I don't have any problem with racing any of them. And some of them, this weekend is the first time I've ever heard of some of them. So, just, you got to go into it kind of unknown, but you still got to give plenty of respect, because you got to earn respect. So you better give it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Augie Grill, man, it has been an honor having you here on Finish Line. I told you it would fly by as fast as we got you on. I know you're a busy man with your race cars. I got to ask you, what's your next race going to be? So it's going to be the Rattler, and by the way, that is a SRL National Tour event. Am I correct? And I think it's paying $25,000 to win. What do you say about SRL and Rookie Brooks stepping up and putting something big like that from a West Coast series to now what they're doing with the SRL National Tour in their second year at Alabama for $25,000? That's a pretty damn big payday. Normally, the Rattler pays $12,000 to win, something like that.
Yeah, I believe it's been 12.5 for years. According to how many cars he had, if he had a certain number of cars, he'd pay 15. But I don't know that he ever got that. But yeah,
Sure.
I appreciate the SRL series stepping up and making it 25 to win. And Ricky was telling me they're trying to get it to where it was a good bit more to start. So hopefully all that works out. And the Baby Rattler is going to pay pretty good this year too. So that might be some of the competition I was talking about earlier with these touring series. If they don't work against each other, I think it could be better for all of us involved. But I just hope they don't start sparring on things and make it bad for everybody. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see this year what all transpires with the two series.
Augie, it's always great talking with you, buddy. Thanks for what you do in the sport for so many years. How long have you been racing, by the way?
I've been driving for 20 years now. But I've been involved in racing since, like I said, when I was old enough to walk, I wanted to spend every minute I could here with my dad. And my kids aren't the same, but but I'm all right with that. But no, I've been something to do with racing for I guess 40 years now.
That's awesome, man. Definitely. Well, listen, congratulations to you on Speed Fest. Great to see you back in Victory Lane since 2019 on Saturday in Cordell, Georgia. Racing America has the archive of the event. If you're a subscriber to RacingAmerica.tv, you can go back and check out the race in its entirety or check out the highlights. But before I do let you go, I want you to thank your sponsors here on Finish Line, Augie, and thanks for being on for the first time.
Thank you for having me. Like I said, it's great to have a reason to be on with you. So just want to thank from this past weekend, Alabama Brick Delivery, just south, actually Hamner Racing Engines. It's not what I have in my car, but that's what we had Saturday. But Hamner Racing Engines, Penske Shocks, and Grand American Race Cars. That's really about it.
And Great American Race Cars will build you a race car. If you need one, contact, of course, Hayden, Alabama's Augie Grill. He'll make it happen. Augie, thanks for your time, buddy. We appreciate you being on, and good luck the rest of the year. Good luck at the Rattler.
Thank you, guys. Have a great show.
Not a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, from Hayden, Alabama, winner of the Pro Late Model portion of the Speed Fest at Watermelon Capital. That is the driver of Mr. Augie Grill. We've got breaking news. Breaking news from the world of LSRTV Productions and Rocket Racing Media. And here is the man to break this news. Charles Witten, what you got for us, buddy?
So as of today, we're shutting the company down. No, I'm just kidding. That is not the news. We're not shutting the company down. No. So.
Well, that's all right. The radio will still be alive, people. Okay, I promise you.
But
Charles, I'll see you when I see you. It's been a great life.
No, the company's alive. It's actually going to be even bigger and better now. You know, we've been waiting on one thing, Wesley, and I think you know what that one thing is. We don't have our next guest yet. What's the one thing that has been holding LSRTV back more than anything?
You're released from the resignation of the Nut House.
Oh, no, I got released a long time ago. They just threw me out. They said they couldn't help me. No. So I
on the digital, the black market box, right? The black marker box?
No,
Magic marker, what do they call it?
You see what's back there? You can't see that, can you? You can see it, but you don't know what it says. That is Vex's website for fiber internet.
What is it now?
Vex's fiber internet. I called and the lady said it was available, but online it wasn't, and I wanted to order it online. I checked this just now while we were sitting here and y'all were talking. I checked it, put my address in. We officially have 1 gig to upload internet, so we have nothing holding LSR TV back now. All I have to do is place that order and get them out here to install it.
Fiber optic internet. So are you going to call them now, or they're not going to be interested in going out during a winter storm, are they?
Well, that's the problem. There ain't nothing going on. So I'm going to get on there. I'm going to get that ordered. And hopefully with any luck by next week's. Actually, no, I think we're off next week. So we have the race tonight, and then we're off until 2 weeks from now for the main sim series. So I think at that point we'll have the new internet.
Wow, I have nothing to do in my life with you for 2 weeks besides finish line.
Yeah, exactly. Lucky you. But no, hopefully by then we'll have that new internet in. And what that really means for the announcers, for anyone that's working for us, with all the new changes, one, the broadcast for the fans is going to be much, much clearer because we really won't have to worry about internet bitrate or anything.
Sure.
And two, for the announcers out there, for anyone, shameless plug, trying to work for us or wants to work for us, you're going to get a crystal clear 1080p version. So right now you get a 720p for your production feed. That's going to go up to 1080p.
We don't need any more announcers, okay?
Yeah, we need more leads.
You're not taking my job. You're not taking my work. We're looking for producers, not announcers, okay?
We're looking for leagues, too. We need leagues on there. We've said it all, and I think you agree. We're still waiting on our next guest. We won't beat the price. We will beat the quality. And that is just proven here more with this new internet coming in. You know, we're going to make sure the fans get a better product. The announcers get a better production feed. Everything is about to just triple, tenfold. As far as what we can push out, we're really still the only true or not true, even upscaled. We're the only 4K broadcast on iRacing. As far as major broadcast company goes, I'm sure some people stream in 4K, but we're about to make that 4K look even better. So, if you've got a league, shoot us a message, livesimracingtv.com. We'll work with you. We will get a price that fits you if we can, if it will fit within, still being able to keep the doors open and, pay our announcers. But yeah, that literally I just checked and that came through. So, late breaking news. I hate we don't have our next guest, but that kind of worked out for that breaking news segment. So
yeah, where is our guest at? Obviously, we were supposed to have had Tyler Clem. Is he popped in? Has he tried to log in?
I have not seen him even attempt to log in. I say we just go get Doug Rice and talk to him the rest of the day.
Oh, we can't do that. We can't do that.
He's technically we could probably do it if he was available.
He's scheduled for 2:20 to the finish of the show. And I'm trying to actually think of an emergency fill-in to try to fill in a spot. Tyler Clem might have had something going on. I just texted him, and I said, "Hey, man,
he's right here. I mean, I'm right here. What are you talking about?
You are the emergency, yes.
I'm always the emergency." But yeah, I figured that was noteworthy of saying because yeah, even on this show.
I was going to try to see if we can get a Keith Graham on from the Carolina Pro Late Model Series, Carolina Crate Modifieds, to talk about their tour and
Yeah,
what they've got going on. They had a nice awards banquet. Unfortunately, I could not be there this past weekend because I had already had prior commitments in Tennessee and then Atlanta on business on Monday. But obviously it looked like it was a great turnout. Congratulations to Cody Norman, Mike Norman's son, winning the Pro Modified Championship for the Carolina Crate Modified Series, and Josh Lauder winning the championship for the Carolina Pro Late Model Series. And we've enjoyed, Charles, having them on Finish Line. Matter of fact, we did a special for them at North Wilkesboro and at Carteret County, if you remember, back earlier in the year as well. So it's really cool to see what that series has done. And they've got an impressive schedule, and they've already changed the dang schedule again. They moved their first race of the year from March 11th, which I was committed to doing, to now March 4th at Hickory. And in doing so, I'm not going to be able to be there for that event at Hickory because I have another $20,000 to win Battle of the Stars for flow racing at New River All-American Speedway. So, but I hopefully will be able to make as many races as I can. Charles, what you got going on for 2023?
Installing better internet. No, but I'm excited about this, and it's not only going to affect our broadcast. I was sitting here thinking it will affect Finish Line too. With this, we can have up to 8 people connected via calls in vMix.
Awesome.
Which is what we're on right now. So we were limited by internet because we could not connect 8 people. It would totally kill the internet, and we'd go back to a Stone Age. But with this new internet, we could have we could actually push a 4K stream for the podcast, and we could have, 5-6 people connected. We could have just a huge roundtable discussion. We could bring in, if we had a big debate, we could maybe bring in first, second, and third and talk to multiple drivers at a time. It really opens the door as to what we can do for the podcast as well.
That would be awesome if we could actually be able to do something like that, hands down. With all of these, with all of the technology that we've got today, which, by the way, absolutely phenomenal, Charles, that we have the technology we have today.
It stinks that it's always limited by what you can do internet-wise, but
sure.
I've been saying for
and I
weeks
think we've got a guest that we're going to bring in via phone line, Charles. We're going to bring him on the phone while we're waiting to connect with also Bubba Pollard to wrap up hour number 1. We've also got Isabella Robusto and then Doug Rice coming up to talk about NASCAR. All of that coming up. I think we're trying to get Mike Ray from Wake County Speedway and, of course, his motorsports racing show that he does every week. It's always great. Me and Mike Ray are longtime friends. He's done such a phenomenal job. No, he's not going to connect via vMix. He's going to
but I bet he has good internet for his
on
show.
Cell phone. Well, he's calling me on cell phone. So does he have good internet for the show? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I hope he does. I mean, I think everybody should have good internet. It's let's be honest. While we wait for him to connect via phone, internet used to be a luxury. I think it's more of a necessity at this point. I mean, you use it for everything nowadays.
Mike Ray, I know you're watching Finish Line or listening to Finish Line. Check your Facebook Messenger and call me. Is that calling somebody out directly on the air, Charles? What do you think?
Well, you called him out to call you, so
right. I sent him an invite. He just commented in the video, and I was like, "Hey, man, check your messenger. Give me a call, and we'd love to have you on." So.
Yes, because I'm sure they get tired of listening to me.
I will tell you this, and I've talked with Dave Moody about it. Me and him have just started communicating a lot here, obviously since we started chatting back in December. And Charles, what do you think about having like an open phone form for our guest? And our guests would be the fans. It would be the audience. They call in. They can video here if they want to. If we could create like just some open line, put in a vMix chat. You click the vMix chat. You connect the video. Obviously, you got to follow the rules. Can't do anything stupid. But having fans of Finish Line and Motorsports being on the program, letting the fans be heard, Charles. What do you think about that? Maybe once a month have a Wednesday where we do that.
I'm all for it, as long as we have a way to, mute them and unmute them. I know a particular podcast that did that one time, and it's not a very big podcast, not very well known, actually probably very unknown. And poor guy, he was trying to get his show.
Those were his words, not mine.
Oh, well, yeah, he'll admit it's not a very big show, not very known. It's got a decent following, though. And,
Okay.
Unfortunately, he gave his number out for people to call in, and, well, people called in and, started screaming, yelling, and cussing. And it was not a very pretty sight.
Well, I will just tell you this. I will have my finger and pulse on the button, and so will Charles will. I want to have guests on the Finish Line show that are going to be respectful. It's okay if you want to say damn or hell or, I'd kick his ass or whatnot, then I would say then that's fine. But when you go into the F-bombs and MF this or SOB, I'm not going to tolerate that whatsoever, and I will eliminate you off the airwaves. So,
you eliminated.
We will, definitely. And obviously, there are some things that will go through in the world of talk radio, sports radio, that are okay, but that type of language definitely will not go for. But, I want to hear your thoughts. If you're in the chat box or if you're listening, put a message out there for our guests if you got one. If you think it's a good idea to have Finish Line and a fan show, a fans choice show, I think that would be great. Let the fans be heard. What do you want to talk about? Obviously, Charles, we're going to talk a lot about NASCAR with Doug Rice, because NASCAR threw down a whole bunch of new rules and implementations for the sport, effective immediately beginning this Sunday at the Clash at the Coliseum for the race, the exhibition race in LA.
Yes, and that's going to be fun to talk about. Speaking of talking, we have a guy who's wearing a nice hat, and he also has a nice beard. Unlike you, who doesn't have a beard at all, he has a nice beard, and he's connected to guest 3 spot.
Well, Mike Ray, we'll bring you on another time, buddy. Before now, let's bring in Bubba Pollard from Sonoy, Georgia, winner of Speed Fest, as he is going to be connected with us on the line here now. If you're ready, there he is. Bubba Pollard, welcome to Finish Line. Welcome back to Finish Line, and it's good to finally see you besides hear you on the radio waves.
Yeah, I ain't too familiar with this Zooming or whatever you call it nowadays, so I don't really care for it, but we'll make it work.
You made it work. Now, I just need to do one more thing for me. If you can, Bubba, take your phone and make it horizontal, vertical. There you go. Do it this way. See if it makes your screen bigger.
That was the other way.
It ain't working. Oh, okay. Do it the other way.
Yep.
We'll run with
That's
it.
a lot better. Leave it right there. Just leave it right there. That's a lot
It's
better.
opposite
It looked
what
like
you
you're.
said, by the way.
I know, but it looks like if you do it the other way,
I'm just a big
so
guy,
did you
man.
have it vertical?
I did.
Did you have it vertical? Okay,
Yeah.
but it was squeezing your face for some reason. I can't figure it out.
I'm just a big guy. I can't fit. I fit out.
Oh, somebody quit calling him. Quit calling Bubba Pollard. Bubba, you there? Bubba Pollard. We just had Bubba Pollard, and now we lost Bubba Pollard. Somebody called him. That's exactly what happened. Can we bring him back? Have we got him? Did he completely hang up? Let's try to see if we can bring him back again. Obviously, everybody, Bubba Pollard not only is a race car driver, but he also operates with the family Sonoy Raceway, and I believe they were scheduled to have the All-Star Circuit of Champions Sprint cars at Sonoy Raceway this weekend. They have actually canceled that race. We'll talk about Sonoy Raceway and more. Bubba Pollard, ignore anybody that calls you. You're on my clock now, buddy.
You better hurry, because it happens a lot.
It is. Hey, so before we go any further, Bubba, we were just mentioning Sonoy Raceway. Did y'all cancel the All-Star Circuit of Champions because the weather sucks outside, obviously?
Well, it's terrible. It's been terrible. What people don't realize, it's not just only this week, but I think in the last couple of weeks we've had almost 6 inches of rain in the last month for the month. So I mean, which is a lot at a dirt track. So it's just part of it. It's terrible. Look, I got kids yelling and everything. I come home for lunch, so
It's all good. It's okay.
but yeah, it's been wet, and then this week we needed some time to get the racetrack to dry out, and it's just no way it's possible. So, but it's part of it. We really would like the All-Star Circuit Champions to come to our place here. I think it would be exciting. It would be something different for fans around this area. So it'd be cool. Just hate it that we're not going to make it happen
Bubba,
this year.
if I can remember correctly, ain't this the second year in a row now that the All-Star Circuit of Champions have been rained out?
Yeah, it is. And I think prior to this, 3 years ago, they tried to run it, I think, at Golden Isles or somewhere in Georgia as well on the way down. So I don't think it went. I think it got rained out as well. So I think this is the third year in Georgia that they've started out that's not worked out for them. So I hate it. Really want them here. Hopefully we can get them back. We'll try it again another year, I guess.
Yeah, very disappointing. In addition to that, the Short Track Super Series was supposed to be at Lakeview Motor Speedway this Thursday through Saturday for their events. They pulled the plug on Monday, the same day that you postponed and canceled the All-Star Circuit of Champions. So let's go back to last Saturday, though. Speedfest Cordell. I did watch on Racing America in Tennessee. Weather was absolutely Chamber of Commerce, Georgia weather. Had to have been, Bubba, and you had a phenomenal race car. How cool was it to get back in victory lane? Because honestly, the last time you won, what was it, May at Berlin? The last time you won a race?
No, we won, I think, in September, October into last year at Citrus County.
Okay.
So I wouldn't call it that long, but we didn't win as much as we wanted to, that's for sure. But yeah, it's good. We know back-to-back years we've won this race, and it just gives you a lot of momentum going into the season, especially with things that we have going on now. It's kind of changing up things again, just to see if we can get our program better. So we'll see. But yeah, just excited to get a win at Cordell. It's a place where I grew up racing back, where it all started. So Legend Cars, and it was a lot of fun. So it's always great to support those guys down there, and they've been good to me over the years. And we had a lot of friends and family that were able to come out and watch the race, so it's pretty cool.
Bubba, what do you say to the masses of people that sometimes go on social media and they say he's burnt out, he's used up, he doesn't have it anymore? Obviously, you point blank said your winning season has not been what it's been in years past, but you're still winning. I mean, that's got to mean something, right? And what's your thought of the competition of the sport?
Well, I think for one, the competition's gotten a lot stiffer in the last several years, ever since Kyle Busch decided to sell the rally car and it form into Hamke. So I think a lot of people's buying speed nowadays, so it's made it tough. A lot of these young guys that can jump in it and don't really work for it can go fast. And that wasn't the case back when I grew up racing. You had to work on your own equipment. You couldn't buy speed. Nowadays, you can buy speed with all the technology and buy people to help you. So things have changed over the years. A lot's changed, but it's just made us have to work a little harder. Not saying we didn't work hard before, but it's been tough. We've had to do things, spend some money we didn't want to spend, and do things a little different to kind of catch up. And we've learned a lot along the way, and then we've also made some bad decisions along the way too. So just learn from those and try to do the best you can. I'm far from washed up. I'm just now getting going. So they got a long time to deal with me.
Yeah, for sure. Bubba Pollard from Sonoy, Georgia. By the way, Bubba, I was reading up on this morning, preparing for your interview here on Finish Line. By the way, it's great to have you back. I think it's the third or fourth time we've had you on the program. But in the years past, you've done it via Cellcast. You've never been able to do it on video. So it's great to have you here on video now with us. But a 150th career touring national win. Obviously, you won at weekly tracks and in weekly track programs, but as far as big races across America, this was your 150th career one at Speedfest. How special was it being at a Georgia race with you being a Georgia boy?
Well, it was cool. Being here at home, I'm just not the type to get caught up in the numbers like that. I had no idea until Elgin told me, I think it was Sunday evening on the way home or Monday morning, I can't remember, but that we had won our 150th. He does a great job with keeping up with stats, and it's pretty neat because one day, as I get back and get older and I can't win races, it's going to be pretty neat to say that, I did win races and the races I've won at and the tracks I've won at. So it will be pretty special one day. But right now we're just focused on winning each and every time we go to a racetrack and winning at different places. But it was cool to do it in Georgia with friends and family and a place where I started. So it was pretty neat.
Bubba Pollard joining us here on Finish Line. About 10 more minutes with him. Then we'll be at the top of the hour. We'll take our first commercial break and go to network radio ID for those that need to pause for 10 seconds of radio identification. And then we come back with Isabella Robusto and Doug Rice to close out hour 2. Charles, in Texas, have you got anything for Bubba Pollard?
All I got is it stinks that the All-Stars, rained out, bad weathered out, whatever you want to call it. We had them here at Monarch back during the pandemic. And all I got to say is make sure your cameraman follows some of them cars because, man, when them suckers flip, they flip. I ended up catching one just about ripped the fence down, took its wing off. Man, it's a good series. So hopefully, they'll get that rescheduled or, next year, whatever it has to be, get them out there because it will draw some fans and it'll put on a good show.
Well, that's one thing. 410s are really unheard of around this area in Georgia. They've ran years back in the past. I think at Rome. It's been several years ago, but the new generation here hasn't seen the 410 sprint cars. I haven't seen them much, so I was really excited about it. Looking forward to it. We had the phone was ringing off the hook. People coming from out of town and all our local guys that are just planning on coming and seeing it for themselves and just don't get to see it very often. So we're excited about it. Hopefully one day we can make it happen. That's our plan. But yeah, we I think we're going to put up some new fencing before they come back, hopefully to catch them in that place.
Bubba, the promoter role, have you kind of adapted to that now where you can be able to, race at somebody called him again. Oh my goodness. Hopefully we'll bring him back here in just a second. There he is. He hit that ignore button quickly this time. Bubba, the promoter role at Sonoy Raceway, have you adapted to it very quicker this year in the last couple of years than when you first started? And has it allowed you to focus more on your racing program? And what is it going to be like for you for 2023 at the racetrack and also in your racing schedule?
Well, we plan on racing a lot this year. We've been fortunate enough to the last 2 years put a lot of great people in place that we feel like that can run it while we're gone and take care of it and treat it like their own and and represent us very well. But it is very different. It's taught me a lot. It's taught our family a lot. My sister does a lot with the racetrack. She pretty much runs it all. So she does a lot. Just everyone in the family. It takes all of us to get it done, and then a lot of other great people. So been very fortunate to have great people. Look forward to what's happening in the future. We got, our Peach State Classic at the beginning of November has turned into a pretty special event. I feel like it's growing every year. We got a lot of publicity last year with the rain and things like that, but we're looking forward to the year. Excuse me. We got the World of Outlaws Super Late Model coming in October, and then we'll have our big event. We'll have some sprint cars throughout the year that are local here. So, just excited. We've kind of got the people in place now, like I said, to where I can go out and get back to racing a lot more. And your focus changes a lot when you have the racetrack and you have family and business and everything that comes along with it. So all those things come first when it comes to all this. So we're ready to get back racing and have a good year.
Yeah, hands down. And by the way, to refer back to what he was talking about, the monumental national news of what they did back in November, it was the Flow Racing Night in America Peach State Classic finale. And the Friday night races and the Saturday events were able to be completely raced because of all the torrential rains that came in on Thursday. Bubba Pollard and the staff there, Cat Daddy Clint Smith and some other people that are involved in track prep, Bubba Pollard, they put tarps down across the entire racetrack, Charles Wooten and listeners. And then whenever they got the tarps up, that kept the majority of the track dry. But if that wasn't enough, they then put down a helicopter to hover above the clay surface at Sonoy Raceway to practically run the track in. And I think, Bubba Pollard, what were you, like 2 hours behind schedule? And that was it. Once you got the entire program in on Friday night, and then Saturday it went off without a hitch.
Yeah, we did. For what all that went on, it really turned out well. The racing was not quite as good as what we hoped, but we got that. We had the fans there. We had the people, and at that point, we wasn't giving up. We had campers. We had almost 120, 30 campers out in the field that were ready to watch some racing, and we're just we're not the type of people who just gonna quit and roll over and give up too easy. So, but yeah, I thought it went pretty well for the most part. I don't know if we'll ever do it again, that's for sure, but it was a lot of work. But it was neat. Hopefully we gained some respect from the racers and the fans, and it shows them that we don't quit, that we will try, give it all 100%, and that's all you can do. So whatever it may be. So we're excited. We also changed the subject a little bit. We got some lighting. We got all new LED lights and poles this past week.
Cool.
So we're excited about that. We were going to show those off for the 410 guys, but don't have the opportunity yet. So we're excited about that. So we're making a lot of improvements. We got a lot more ideas to come. Just hopefully, we can survive it all and make it to show everyone what we got planned over here.
Hey, let's go back to the win at Cordell at Speedfest. Obviously, back-to-back wins. You've won it before in the past. Did this win, was it more special to this year, or was it the win last year that meant more to it, winning at Watermelon Capital?
For different reasons, they were both special, but last year was pretty big, I feel like, because we didn't have such a great 21, 22 there. We struggled. So that win was special. And then we did win some last year. I think we won 7, 8 times last year, but it's nothing like I want to win. I want to win that 14, 15 every year.
Sure.
That we're used to. But this past year, it was special for different reasons. We had a lot going on with our family, with my mom and dad, and just everything they're going through. And we've had some rough times with cars, and we've tried to straighten all that out. And so we've had a lot of great people, like Byron here on my hat. Look, check them out there. Outdoor Power Center, Super Center, to help us out. James Finch, Phoenix Construction, and Race Car Engineering. Just so many different people that's stuck behind us through the hard times. And those are the people that they're special to us, that that keep us going. So it's been fun. Always, each race I feel like special for their own unique reasons. So these two are pretty good.
All right, you got all your sponsors out of the way, so I got one more question for you, Bubba Pollard, and we'll let you go. We got Isabella Robusto in the box from Toyota Racing Development coming up, and Doug Rice with the Performance Racing Network in hour number 2 in just mere moments. One more question. A lot of buzz about super late model pavement racing going national, like we're seeing already in the dirt world with the World of Outlaws, Lucas Oil, and even XR Super Series. Do you think this is positive, what ASA, Southern Super Series, CRA, and of course an ASA Stars National Tour is doing, just like SRL National Tour is doing on the West Coast and the East Coast that you've been a part of in the past. You won a SRL National Tour event at Berlin back in May of last year in Michigan. Where do you see the sport of super late model racing going with this?
It's early. Everyone can talk big at the beginning of the year, but they got to be able to produce. And we'll be able to. We'll know more when it comes to July, for sure. I'm really excited about where super late model's headed. I think there's some good opportunities for myself and a lot of other young guys to get some exposure and find some sponsorship. Hopefully, they can come up here soon with some TV deals, Mav or Flo or something to get us out there, and like a Lucas or a World of Outlaws. So it's headed in the right direction. All I can do as a driver is support them and do the best we can to represent them and win races and put on a show for the fans and make it somewhere where people want to come. And I think if everyone works together, it could be great in the future. You just all got to, do the right things, work together, and make it happen. So I'll tell you here in 6 months, I guess.
Well, Bubba Pollard, it's always great having you here on Finish Line, my friend. Thank you for all that you do for the sport. Congratulations on your win at Speedfest, and good luck with your next race. Where will you be at? Is it Op? Is it the Rattler? Or actually New Smyrna, right?
So
Super Bowl.
We got New Smyrna. That was added to the schedule on Valentine's Day. So we'll see if we can't pull out a win for the girls here. And then we'll be at Five Flags on March the 11th and the Rattler the weekend after on the 19th, I think it is. So, we got a lot of racing coming up. I think there's 30-something, over 36 races we're going to run. So my wife probably don't know that.
Amazing.
But, we're going to run quite a bit this year.
Always great catching up with Bubba Pollard in Sonoy, Georgia. Get back to answering those phones at the promoter role of Sonoy Raceway. And congratulations on Speedfest.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
And with Bubba Pollard out of the way, we will go to a quick commercial break, pause for 10 seconds of radio identification, and we come back with Isabella Robusto to kick off hour number 2 of Finish Line next.
Welcome to the Community Radio Network. Follow us always via social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CRN Sports. Plus, listen
Isabella
to the
in the
new
box, ready to go?
87.9 and still anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN.
Let me tell you about MPM. McAllister Precision Marketing. They can assist up-and-coming racers with career advancement, promotion, and assist in sponsorship procurement. MPM also has media and professional etiquette training. They work with premier driver development teams and limited late models to late models. And they also help the teams to make it up to the levels of K&N, ARCA, Truck Series, and even NASCAR Xfinity. Contact Tanya McAllister today at McAllister Precision Marketing, 803-361-6199. Today, get on the board with MPM.
CrateInsider.com is your one source for crate racing tech and more. Whether you currently race with a crate engine or you are thinking about getting into the sport, our website has what you need. CrateInsider.com has tech videos, interviews with experts, and the best products in the industry. Dyno tested and proven, so we know they are the best products for crate engines. Visit CrateInsider.com today to get on the fast track to victory lane.
This is Finish Line.
And we welcome you back to hour number 2 of the Finish Line Motorsports Show. Coming up next, Doug Rice of the Performance Racing Network to preview everything in the world of NASCAR. All the new implementations that have been made, the rules, the stages, the car, the banning of the Hail Melon, which I think is some BS. We'll talk about all that with Doug Rice. But first, great to have her back on the program out of Fort Mill, South Carolina. We're going to get you off at 2:20, I promise, young Isabella Robusto, Toyota Racing Development driver. It's so good to see you, Isabella. When's the last time I saw you? I think it was Florence and Southern National. What a great races you had there. I think it was the first female ever on the podium in third at the South Carolina 400. Thanks for being on Finish Line today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was definitely a great race to end the year off with.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, and I see you sporting the Lee Falk Racing Development swag. Obviously, that was a big announcement that was made. And another big announcement for you, Isabella, is you're going to be running the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour full time in 2023 for the late model stocks. How excited is that, young lady? And it can I also say pro late models. You're going to be double dipping in both.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to do the car store, both in the Pro Late model with Donnie Wilson and then in the stock Lee Falk again. So I feel really strong about the stock. I think we'll run up in the front, compete for wins. The pro kind of got my feet wet with it with the trying to do the red eye earlier this year, and felt pretty strong about it. So I think we'll fire off pretty good there as well. And just running double duty every week, having all those laps at each track, I think will help benefit me in the long run. And then also making my ARCA debut this year. So I'm super pumped for that. I can't wait. I feel really good about Nashville. DeCoin's gonna be interesting, being on the dirt for the first time, but super pumped for all of that. And then as well as going road course racing with the GT4 car in Smooge. So gonna be a busy year, but definitely super excited about all of it.
I'll tell you what, young lady, and I got to get your thoughts on this. It seems like your career has just gone into stealth mode in probably the last 3 or 4 months. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's definitely I'd say in the last 3 or 4 months for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lee Falk and Tanya McAllister, MPM Marketing, we know them very personally here on Finish Line, longtime sponsors on the program. So I got to tell them, and I told Tanya this via text the other day, hands down, Lee Falk has got an amazing driver. And I really think, Isabella, that it had a lot to do. Didn't you drive for them? Was it at Florence at the South Carolina 400? Wasn't you one of the 5 cars that you raced for them?
For this past year,
Yes. Who were you racing for in the Yahoo car?
I was with Lee. So I ran with Lee
Oh,
Falk for
okay.
that. And
Well,
it was definitely a crazy.
and that just goes to show you right there. And I think Lee Falk and the powers that be that were watching you and your talent said, "Hey, man, this is young lady that we definitely need to snag here real quickly." Did you go down to Daytona and test for ARCA a couple of weeks ago? What kind of experience was that for you?
So I didn't go down and test for it. I'm not gonna
Okay.
run any super speed year. Hopefully next year we'll do the test and run some super speedways. But just for this first year in ARCA, there's not many weekends that I have free. And the ones that I do are all short track races. So I'll do short track races for ARCA. I've got 4 of them. So 3 asphalt and then 1 dirt. So staying in my comfort zone at least for the first year getting into ARCA. So I think I'll do pretty good. Just coming from the short track side with Lee and then Donnie this year as well. So
Isabella, I'd be hard pressed to ask you, but are we going to see you at the 8th annual Icebreaker at Florence for NASCAR next Friday and Saturday? I know I'll be there on the broadcast crew. Will you be there?
I will not. I have 56 other races this year though, so hopefully there's one that you'll be at. I won't be at the Icebreaker though, sadly.
I'm sure our paths will cross somewhere, no doubt about it. Obviously, the Cars Tour, their season fires up. I think it's March 11th, and that will be at Southern National Motorsports Park. By the way, what an impressive schedule. I got to give a shout-out to Michael Diaz and Kinley at Southern National Motorsports Park real quick, Isabella. Not only are they doing the big shows, but the races have been unveiled. Their schedule was unveiled last week. They're going to be running on Sunday nights or Sunday afternoons for the schedule of 2023. They're also going to be running some Wednesday night specials. The big races like the Thanksgiving Classic and more will still come. But also they have announced that they're going back NASCAR sanctioned under the Advanced Auto Parts Series banner. That now puts in Eastern North Carolina, Florence Motor Speedway, where the Icebreaker will be next week. Southern National now jumping on board with Wake County, and another one, Goodyear All-American Speedway. Isabella, that's got to be awesome. Besides knowing that you don't have to go to Hickory or South Boston or Langley, you could stay in the parts of the Carolinas and have a chance to go for a national championship if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's definitely good for all the short track races, and it's going to help out a bunch of different racers going for that national championship every year. And I know last year Hickory was really the only track that we went to other than Florence once to get some NASCAR national points. But that's definitely great hearing all of the other tracks kind of jumping on board with it.
Yeah, certainly. Charles, got a question for Isabella Robusto here on Finish Line.
Yeah, I really don't have anything except for that I got this one thing. I've been around racing all my life, and it's just good to see more females moving up into the sport because there's not enough. It's been dominated by males all this time, and it's good to see more moving up in there. There were some when I was doing photography and video out at the go-kart track. But that seemed to be where they stopped. They did the lower levels and didn't move up. So it's good to see some moving further up into the series and getting rides, with good names. And I just look forward to, the next, 5-10 years to see where it all goes.
Isabella, no doubt about it. To elaborate more on what he just said, you also have a passion for also schooling. What are you going to school for?
So right now I'm doing online college. I'm doing aerospace and mechanical engineering. So staying with the math. Hopefully it will help out with racing. If I can make race cars go faster, that's all good. So get my school done and also learn a few things about how I can help with my racing and just understanding the cars better.
Isabella, can you elaborate more on what Charles just said? What's your take of women in motorsports like yourself building your endeavor, building your name, not trying to be a Danica Patrick or a Haley Diggin? You're Isabella Robusto. And that's what I tell everybody that you talk about these female drivers. They're building their own name, just like these men are in the sport. What does Isabella Robusto want to do for the sport of racing?
Yeah, I just kind of want to make it all the way to Sunday. I want to race on Sunday. I want to compete for wins championships every weekend. And some of the advice that I can just like give younger females that do kind of stop at that go-karting or the legend car levels is like keep going with it. There's going to be less and less each level because that's when it gets harder. So you just have to stick with it and make sure it's something that you really want to do because the amount of work that you have to put in for it week in and week out to get those wins and to compete is a lot. So make sure it's what you want to do. And if it is, stick with it. Don't give up. And there'll definitely be some hard times, but there'll also be some really good ups.
Isabella, how did you get your career started to where it is now, as it looks like you got a phenomenal 50-plus schedule of races for your racing team in Toyota Racing Development in 2023?
Yeah, I started in go-karts before I could remember, about 5 years old, and kind of just grew from there. Got really good at it, knew that's kind of what I wanted to do, and moved up into the Legend Car Series, Bandoleros, ran with INEX, and did the summer shootout, ran all up and down the East Coast, competed, and then 2.5 years ago, moved into late model stocks with Rev Racing. And then this past year, thanks to Toyota, I was able to run full time with Leaf Walk Racing with Mobile One and Yahoo on the hood and compete for wins, got wins. And then this coming year as well, having Yahoo and Mobile One and Toyota supporting me with all of these races and being able to get those 50-plus races in 1 year, I couldn't do without them.
So, Isabella, I got one more question for you. I'll let you go because I know you got class at 2:30. We've got Doug Rice from NASCAR and the Performance Racing Network coming up in about 3 minutes' time. What is your favorite racetrack that you have raced at in your young age of your career?
I would have to say Tri-County. It's where I got my first late model stock win, but I don't know, something just about it being super smooth and fast and multiple lanes and grooves when you race is definitely my favorite track so far.
Isabella, I got to ask you, iRacing question. Do you ever drive iRacing? Are you into iRacing? Do you get on the virtual simulator?
I'll get on it here and there. I get on the Toyota sim kind of to work on setups, but just like the normal little iRacing sim, I don't do a lot. But I definitely will be using it this year, kind of to learn those road courses that I have to get on and kind of the new tracks, just to get to the overall understanding, I guess, before I get to the racetrack and have to get in the car for real.
Well, Isabella, listen, I'm going to let you go. Before I do, I want you to thank your sponsors. I know you've already mentioned Mobile One. I know you've already mentioned Yahoo.com, but it doesn't matter because they pay your bills. They make you have the career that you're having at a young age in the sport, young lady. Continued success. It's always great talking to you. Never lose that humbleness that you have. A lot of these drivers make it up to the big time. They become cocky and arrogant. I hope that that's something that never happens to you. Always be humble and kind. Remember where you come from, Isabella, and I think it's going to take you to far places, and you're going to make it to Sunday afternoon.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. Couldn't have done it without Toyota. Huge supporter, as well as having Mobile One and Yahoo on the hood, as well as Smooch Racing, South Six, everyone that makes it possible to race, my parents, just everybody who supports me, gets me to the track, Leaf Walk Racing, Venerini, Donnie Wilson Motorsports. So hopefully this year will be good and we'll come out with a couple.
Being from Fort Mill, South Carolina, how much do you go to Carowinds, young lady?
I used to go all the time. I don't go anymore, but when I was little, I'd go basically every other weekend.
Gotcha. Well, Isabella, thank you so much for taking the time to be here on Finish Line. Continued success. Have a great 2023 season. I'm sure I'll see you at the races somewhere this year.
Thank you for having me.
From Rock Hill, South Carolina, Isabella Robusto. And now we get ready for a two-part segment to talk about the world of NASCAR and more. He's already at his office desk working, looking. There he goes in Charlotte at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Xfinity testing there a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact. Maybe we can get some details on that. Not one, but two segments to close out Finish Line. Doug Rice, before I bring you back, some congratulations are in order. What is it, another year, 10, 12, 15, 20 years in a row? North Carolina National Motorsports Press Association Award, Best Race Call, Best Network with PRN. Man, how many did you get, you and Mark Garrow?
We had a really good year this year in the National Motorsports Press Association Awards Day. They gave out 14 awards in the radio category, and PRN took home 10 of those. So
Wow.
we were really excited about what we were able to do, and it meant a great deal to all of us. So it was a good day, and I think Mark Garrow has won the Broadcaster of the Year award a half dozen times, and this was my third time to get that. So that was nice, and I picked up, and I sound like I'm bragging here, the Joe Littlejohn Award, which is an award given to somebody that has done a lot of work for the NMPA, and I've emceed their banquets and dinners for probably 2 decades. So that was nice to get a little recognition. Always good. Always good to get recognition while you're still around to get it.
No bragging or ego for you whatsoever, Doug Rice. Everything that you have ever achieved or you have earned, you have certainly got these opportunities because of your talents. And I got to ask you, though, was one of the NMPA awards from your call for Bristol in the dirt race?
I think that's one. I think we picked up second place, and I believe it was Bristol Dirt. Before, we'd always done really well with the Roval race. This year's Roval wasn't quite as exciting, but Bristol Dirt, especially that last lap, was pretty wild.
Certainly. Well, listen, Doug, it's always great to have you back here on Finish Line. We're giving you 2 segments instead of 1 here, and there are a lot of implementations to talk about in the world of NASCAR, and I'm going to start right out of the gate, and I think you know exactly which one I'm going to talk about. The banning of the Hail Melon. I mean, obviously the mind-blowing move that Ross Chastain made at Martinsville to make it into the championship 4. We thought that people were going to probably make a ban before the Phoenix race, but, NASCAR waits until before the start of the season. They make it out like it's in the interest of safety. Do you think this is good or bad for the sport, for the fans that are happy or mad about the decision?
I tweeted out yesterday on this, and I'm not going to go against myself here. I'm okay with them saying, let's not do this, because what Chastain did was almost perfect.
Right.
It's like in Star Trek where they whip around the sun so they can go back in time. You can only do that once. Uh, Chastain could only, or anybody, I feel like, could have only have done this one time, and it worked to perfection. It gained what he wanted to get. He passed Denny Hamlin. He got into the playoffs. Cemented his place in NASCAR lore, and I'm good with it being done. He scored a perfect 10. Let's put it in the Smithsonian and admire it for what it is, because if somebody else tried to do it, I just don't know that anybody's ever going to be able to pull that off to the degree that Chastain did. And I'll tell you right now, 30 out of those 36 drivers don't have the stones to do what he did.
Doug, Bob Pockris of Fox Sports on the TV side had he said that they're saying that it's in the interest of safety. Obviously running the car up to the wall, not hitting the brakes, ramming the gas the way he did. If it worked the way it did at Martinsville, if it went somewhere else and somebody did it, what type of ramifications of danger do you think we could see come from that, especially of all the safety that NASCAR has done since 2001, and we haven't had any fatalities?
Well, if you go back and look at that, and I still think it's the singularly coolest thing I've seen in my lifetime of covering NASCAR. If you go back and look at it, it looks like his car is speeded up on a videotape, and everybody else is running at normal speed. If you tried to do that again and you're going 40 miles an hour faster than everybody else and you hit somebody, the potential for real danger, harm, I think is legit. I just left the R&D meeting yesterday from NASCAR where they went over some of the things that they're doing to this car again to make it safer. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with them doing it, mainly because I don't want to see somebody try to copycat it and it just doesn't play. Let's leave this one. Sometimes, most of the time the sequel's not as good as the original.
Charles, before we go into all of the new implementations that NASCAR announced yesterday, what's your take of that, buddy? And by the way, here's the official word from NASCAR: wall riding. Ross Chastain stood on the gas, skipped the brake pedal altogether, and rode the wall at Martinsville Speedway in the penultimate race of the the championship season. The move gathered national attention as he passed 5 cars in one corner and advanced to the championship round at Phoenix for 2023. NASCAR has now prohibited the move, and if it's pulled, drivers will be handed a timed penalty at all tracks. NASCAR noted that it was a safety issue in regards to why they added the new rule. Charles, your take on that, and then we go into more of the new rules coming with Doug Rice of Performance Racing Network.
The masses can hear me. My only thought is, and I'm going to probably be the bad guy here, is it took them this long to declare it as a safety hazard. I don't understand that part. If it was more of a safety hazard, I thought they would have penalized him right then and there. But on the other side, it's kind of stink not to see the helmet and flat across the wall anymore. Because I'm not gonna lie, that was about as exciting as some of the dirt races I get to watch. I was super excited about it, and I say kudos to him. Snakes will never see it again, though.
And to close this subject, Doug Rice, hands down, he was saying, well, why didn't they penalize him, the day of the race or day after Martinsville? Obviously, I think everybody was in shock and awe. Would you agree, Doug? And then there was kind of like, we have to go back to R&D.
That's what I was going to say.
We have to do testing.
I think NASCAR was so shocked by what they saw, they didn't know how to react. It's like seeing a species of animal you've never seen before. You don't know how to react. So I'm glad they didn't penalize him for that. I was really happy at the time that they didn't do anything. It doesn't bother me now because realistically, I think the only place that this move would work would be a Martinsville. He thought this thing out, and it has to be a last lap move because if you do it earlier, you use up your car and you're not going to gain anything anyway. So I think the chances of making that thing play and having the exact right circumstances are pretty doggone small anyway, which is, I guess, an argument either way. You could say, well, why'd you make a rule if it's, not going to happen once every 75 years?
Doug Rice, Performance Racing Network, and now we go into some of the other changes that was announced yesterday. NASCAR announced that in 2023, stage breaks are being removed for the NASCAR Cup Series events on road courses. The breaks will remain, however, for trucks and Xfinity. Your take on that? Do you think that might make the road race boring?
I think it's going to be just the opposite. Trucks and Xfinity in standalone road course events, like if there is a companion race in Sonoma this year or the Roval here, they will also not take stage breaks. Those are standalone races. I believe that was right. So no, here's what had happened, Wesley, the way that I was looking at it. And like we were at, I don't know, we were doing a road course race and somebody won the first two segments. It might have been at Coda. Or they won the second segment. You knew because of the way the pit stops fall, either taking them 2 laps before that last stage break or taking them at that stage break, that by going for the points and winning the stage, you had effectively eliminated yourself from any chance to win the race because you're not going to come back and pass 25 cars under most circumstances. And you don't have a lot of cautions at these places. And I really feel like what they've done now, and I'm not being a NASCAR apologist by any stretch, but I feel what they've done now is they've put the race back in the crew chief's hands to figure out, okay, when are we going to pit? Because before they had the stage breaks at the road courses, the crews had to figure out, okay, we're going to pit lap 25 and lap 52 and whatever else, sometimes only 2 times. And no matter what happens, that's when we come to pit road. Don't care what the cautions fall or anything. This took so much out of their hands that, frankly, I applaud this move. I like it a lot. The only thing it does to us detrimentally on PRN is it takes away 2 natural slots for us to play commercials while nothing was happening. I mean, I'm being greedy, but that's the truth,
I understand.
We're about the only sport around that has to play commercials while live action's taking place.
You're exactly right. For the most part, if you listen to football, basketball, on hockey, baseball, softball, you name it, whenever there's a timeout called or if there is the end of a period or a play, that's whenever they, go to a radio timeout. So for sure, I totally understand what you're saying. And you got to have those sponsors to help pay the bills to keep the network on the air, hands down.
Roger that.
So we go now from the wall riding to the to the stages. Let's stay into some aspect of the formats of the race. Choose rule. Previously, the rule didn't apply to super speedways or the dirt race. It will now be implemented in 2023, Daytona and Talladega and Bristol Dirt. For 2023, drivers will also choose their restart lane at both dirt and tracks and super speedways, besides at intermediate tracks. I want to get your take on that, as well as the adding of 50% to the restart box. And this is about the restart box. The box length will be extended 50% for the start of the season. NASCAR will reevaluate this the first 5 races. Where are we going with this? Where are they seeing an idea of having this extended 50%, Doug?
On the choose rule, first, let me address that. I think that's going to have minimal impact. I think on the super speedways, what that might do is allow some of the team cars to maybe line up so they're already lined up on a restart so they can draft each other. Atlanta, Talladega, Daytona, you'll see that. I think that is the biggest impact of the choose. The choose at Bristol's going to be tough because you can't have a chalk line or anything. They're going to have to come up with a hologram or something at the track that lets the cars know when they're choosing their lane. I think that's going to be kind of interesting. And the other part of this equation, as far as what was part two, Wesley?
The restart box.
The restart box. Here again, I think that was done to minimize the opportunities to have people jump in the start. They're going to lengthen it 25% on both ends. It's not just going to be 50% earlier that the restart zone starts. It'll be 25% there and 25% at the beginning. And I think it's just try to eliminate false starts and also try to eliminate some of the gamesmanship that you see on the restarts with guys dropping back and doing things of that nature. We'll see. And I think it's smart for NASCAR to put it in as a trial period. If it doesn't work or there's a problem with it, then you go back to the way it was after the Atlanta race. And trust me, these teams are already trying to figure out how to beat the system. It's what they do. It's the nature of the crew chiefs and the car chiefs is to how can we use this to our advantage?
Yeah, I think you hit that on the nail perfectly, Doug. Rain tire options, by the way, chance of rain at the races. If you're at a track that's like oval courses like the Clash, if LA Coliseum tries to get rain, there is an option there. North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race, Phoenix, Richmond, Milwaukee, New Hampshire, Indianapolis Raceway Park, and Martinsville. Doug Rice all having wiper blades on the cars. There has been a new rule that they have to have the 12 o'clock position of the wiper blades on the front of the windshields and the implement of rain tires. And this is something that has been tested for probably over a year. Doug, do you think they can successfully try to have races in the rain? And let's emphasize on this. This is not during severe weather conditions. If it gets really nasty, NASCAR is going to park them and bring them on pit road.
No, they're not going to try to do what they did at Coda the first year we were there
Right.
and racing in a monsoon. But if it's a shower, if it's just damp, drizzly, it doesn't take much rain or water or moisture at all to stop these shows. And we do the races at New Hampshire, so I'll address that one. We get up there and it comes a little rain shower. That track's flat. It makes it hard to drive. It's a mile dry. It's a mile in length. That's 90 minutes unless the sun just pops right back out. They don't have lights there. So that's 90 minutes. We're using up a daylight and extended time. If you could have that little shower, you bring everybody in, you pop on rain tires, they turn on their windshield wipers, and you keep racing, more power to them. I'm all about this. I've been an advocate of this forever. I think you have to use better judgment, though, on, okay, it's too wet. Let's just park it. But if this gives us the option of going back racing sooner, because Wesley, you've been at enough races that, okay, it stopped raining, but we're not racing for another hour because they've got the jet dryers and the track drying teams out there trying to get every little bit of moisture off the track. Throw some rain tires on there. Let's go and cut down on this downtime. I'm all about this. I know some people don't like it. I'm all for it. Yes, let's do this.
Charles Wooten, I got to throw you in this because I know you mentioned it on your podcast the other Sunday about rain tires and racing in the rain on iRacing simulation. Obviously, that tries to blueprint what real racing's like. What's your take of NASCAR putting on rain tires and having that be a possibility? Charles, are you there? He's behind the scenes working on something else. My apologies, Doug. He is. He's working on something else. What you got, Charles? Go ahead. Okay. I'm understanding he is off on something else, Doug. So it's just me and you right now. So, but he has also given his thoughts of the rain tires as well. So filling in that spot. Couple more, and then we just kind of just embellish for until the top of the hour. Doug Rice, Performance Racing Network. NASCAR fires up 2023 and their 75th anniversary of speed this Sunday with the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. Changes on the chassis, Doug. last year, NASCAR announced that the chassis designs will be updated. They have removed several bars to add crush zones. NASCAR converted the cost of these, covered the cost for these updates on the next gen cars. So big props to NASCAR. And also, I got to ask you about the aero changes, as NASCAR hosted a short track test where different aero elements were installed. They also tried various spoiler heights. The series has scheduled wind tunnel tests in mid-February to further evaluate those changes before implementation. On the interests of the chassis and the safety, the crash zones, Doug, you called a phenomenal crash at Charlotte when Chris Buescher got airborne on the front straightaway. And you talked about the safety that's been in the cars to protect that driver. But then we've also seen drivers in the last quarter of the season before the playoffs get hurt or have concussion or have to go on concussion protocol. I have to say this, and I know you'll elaborate on this more on your intake of it. Props to NASCAR of still trying to figure out a way to make these drivers safe. And I think ultimately that is what they've got to do here.
Well, the biggest area of concern, Wesley, was that rear clip and cars backing into the wall like Kurt Busch did and the other drivers that had to set out last year. Alex Bowman missing time last year because of a concussion. So they've really gone in and done a deep dive. I was at the NASCAR R&D Research and Development Center yesterday for a session with a lot of media folks where NASCAR showed videos of the new chassis that they're bringing to the track versus the one they used last year. In layman's terms, it's a lot less stiff. They showed us a video of the old one from last year in a 90-degree crash against the wall versus the one this year. This one this year is a lot more forgiving. It collapses a lot more. So what that does is that lessens the energy transfer from the rear end of the car to the driver. That's where we were having the problems. So hopefully that eliminates it. They did this through several ways. The tubing in some of the places on that rear clip is less robust. The diameter is smaller. In some places, they just took braces out, and it makes that rear end deform a lot easier. But you can't just make it super soft because you still got a fuel cell back there that's carrying a lot of very flammable liquid in it. So you've got to protect that, and you can't have that thing sloshing out all over the racetrack. So, it's a balancing act. I felt really good about what I saw that they'd done with the rear clip. I'm not an engineer. I don't play one on the radio, but and I ask a lot of questions, but to my layman's eyes, it looks like a great deal of thought has gone into this, and they're making some great progress in that area. As far as the front aerodynamic changes, a lot of this was made, it surprised me a little bit, to disseminate heat. That the ports on top of these cars for the heat to come out of have been increased, and it wasn't as much as an aero question. To me, it seemed like as it was a heat get rid of question. Let's get the heat out of these engines and get it up through the hood a little bit easier. And that who knows? We'll see that under fire in Daytona. You probably won't know how effective that is till you're 5 or 6 races in. But that seemed to be where they were going with those changes. And it did seem like, and I think Mike Joy might have asked the question, he goes, well, how about the front end of these cars? Will they marry to the back end of the cars better? And the answer was, it seems like these manufacturers have taken every opportunity they can to flatten the nose. So when they come up to push their teammate, it's flat against flat and not a point against flat.
Great points, hands down. Doug Rice, couple of more work on the implementations that have been made for NASCAR. Obviously, they are going into effective immediately, and then we just go into a rambling session, as always, with Doug Rice of the Performance Racing Network. By the way, GoPRN.com, great coverage of everything that they do, and getting ready for another year. I believe your first race will be what, Vegas? Third race on the schedule?
Correct. That's right. Early March.
Damaged vehicle policy. The time allowed to make repairs have been increased to now 7 minutes. Doug, have we kind of got used to this where if your car is badly damaged, if you can't get it fixed in 7 minutes, we pretty much know you're going to the garage area. Do you agree with
Yeah,
the
and
increased implementation, or you think it's good?
I was good at 6 minutes. Apparently, the crew chief said, "Hey, we need a little bit more time if we're changing these toe links, which seems to be a pressure point on these cars. They bend, they break, they have to pop a new one of those on." They said, "We can't
Sure.
do that in 6. We need that other 60 seconds." So they gave it to him. I even asked this question. I said, "Well, what are you going to do when you get to the playoffs? Last year, you said 10 minutes in the playoffs." And their answer was very curt. It says, "Well, we're not there yet." So, okay, good. You're not.
Gotcha.
So 7 minutes. I don't like seeing cars that are beat all to hell running around the racetrack.
Right.
I know everybody, "Oh, it looks like a modified." No, it doesn't. It looks like a piece of junk. So, if that looks like a modified, I don't know where you've been watching modifieds race. So, with cars that damaged, you can't make minimum speed. You don't need to be out there running interference for other people.
Gotcha. Hands down. Hey, one more thing. And then there's a big topic. We'll take it here too. Lost wheel penalties. They've been implemented this year as well. Losing a wheel has been one of the biggest and most common penalties for 2022. And for the 2023 season, the penalty has now been adjusted. If you lose your wheel under yellow flag, lose wheel on pit road, you start at the rear. Green flag, losing a wheel on pit road, pass through penalty. If you're under yellow or green, lost wheel on track, 2-lap penalty, 2-race suspension for the 2 crew members of NASCAR's choosing. Now, Doug, do you think that seems fair that NASCAR can determine the fate of who 2 of your people are going to be kicked to the curb?
I would like for that to be a little bit more specific. I'd hate to think that I'd said something to a NASCAR official, and that's the reason that my name got pulled versus somebody else on the crew. I like the fact, though, that that they're not suspending crew chiefs for 5 weeks and weakening race teams that way. I always felt like that was capital punishment for jaywalking. So I'm glad they backed off on this a little bit. And Wesley, if you noticed last year, as we went through the year, the number of teams and cars losing tires dropped off dramatically. And you knew it would. You knew it was going to, because the crews learned how to change the single lug nut, and they got better at that and improved at that. So as we went through the year, there were less problems in that area. So I'm okay with it. I think here again, it's a rule that's I just don't sense like that's going to be as prevalent as it was the first half of last year, because these cup teams have figured out how to change these single lugs and get them onto the cars correctly.
And can I say this, Doug, before we close this subject and go to our final topic? NASCAR teams have had all winter to try to figure out, go into the race shops to practice and do pit stops to see if there's something they need to fix. They got a chance to do it before this weekend at the Coliseum. Hopefully they've taken that time to stay in shape and practice.
Well, the major crews, that's not a question. They train and they practice all the time. And they also had a year, had 38 races last year to figure out how to do this. And if you can't get your systems down by then, I don't know what's going to help you. So I don't think tires coming off cars, yeah, it'll happen, but it's not going to be with the frequency that we were seeing in the first half of 2022. I just don't believe that'll happen.
Doug Rice, this was going to be my big topic with you until we found out about the banning of the wall of Ross Chastain with the Hail Melon, and that is the implementation of mufflers on the race cars. This has been a topic of good, bad, ugly, great. This is messing up our sport. This is good for the sport. The cars will have mufflers installed for 2023. This will be in effect at the LA Coliseum, also at North Wilkesboro Speedway, Bristol, other tracks. These have been installed to slightly reduce noise. Now, I will say this, Doug. They had mufflers on some of the cars at the Rolex 24, and I was listening to Sirius XM radio with Mike Skinner and Angela talking about, on the Skinner Roundup on Sunday, driving back from Georgia to Tennessee, or vice versa, that it was a nice hum, but then once the mufflers got started and they finally got going, that was the electric engines. A lot of people fear that the electric cars are going to be the same sound with the mufflers on these big race cars. What's your take on this, Doug? And do you think that this is something that has caused a big withdrawal, or people to just lose a connection in the sport because of this?
Well, it probably is the end of the world as we know it. No, here's my take. I watched a video, might have been Bob Pockers that posted it, from Phoenix, that had cars without the mufflers on the racetrack and cars with mufflers. I felt like the sound difference was nominal. NASCAR said in the meeting that I was at yesterday, what they wanted to achieve with mufflers is that it would sound like if you were twice as far away from the vehicle. So if what you're hearing would sound like the car being 30 feet away as opposed to being 15 feet away. And I thought, and I could be wrong on this, that they were only talking about for mufflers this year at the LA Coliseum and Chicago on the road course. Now, I may be wrong on that. That's what I heard. But I think there's a lot of gnashing of teeth about this. Let's see what goes on first. Yes, noise is a big part of the racing experience. I mean, especially drag racing, I think, is even more so. I don't want to hear electric cars whizzing by. That loses all the romance for me. But let's not go apoplectic just yet at the suggestion. I worked back in the late 90s and early 2000s. I did a lot of work with the old USAR Hooters Cup Series, if you remember that. And I probably covered 100 of their races. They ran mufflers. And I never once heard a fan say, man, I wish they'd take the mufflers off these, because they ran mufflers because a lot of the tracks they ran were close to residential areas or in towns, and they weren't as loud, and it wasn't a problem. And I remember that distinctly, and I don't know that I ever heard one fan, person, or anything say, I wish they weren't running mufflers. And they were still pretty loud, by the way.
Doug, that's right. I never even thought about that. That's how long me and you go back to when we met at Southern National. I guess it was 2006 or 7 at Kinley when you were doing the Pro Cup Series on television. Holy cow. They did have mufflers on those cars, and I will tell you, the race cars sounded phenomenal. So
they sounded like race
maybe
cars.
There's much to do about nothing. So, I mean, and by the way, I did go back and check some more stuff on this, Doug. The biggest implementations are for Los Angeles and for Chicago for the street race in July. However, there is talks about, if this goes well, they might put this on the race cars. So, I get it.
I can see that.
For fans, you bring your kids to the racetrack, you bring the babies to the racetrack. First off, I think a mom and dad or a guardian should have enough common sense to bring a newborn or a 6-month-old to the racetrack and not have the proper hearing stuff for them, whether it be the earbuds or the plastic headpieces, whatever it is. Charles, what's your take on this? I know you're back behind me and behind the scenes. What's your take of the noise and the mufflers? And I just thought about that, Doug. There were mufflers on Hooters Pro Cup cars, and of course, Bob Shack and the people with the Grand National Super Series are keeping that program alive with the Pro Cup cars. Go ahead, Charles.
So my thoughts, I'm mixed on both sides of this. I've never been to the Coliseum, so I don't know how the noise, resonates in there. Obviously in the street race, people living on the streets, maybe not, in the buildings aren't going to want that. But they don't do too many indoor. I am all for mufflers in these indoor because I do a lot. I've been to the go-kart races, Chili Bowl, stuff like that. And there, I really think you need mufflers because if you don't there, I've left a go-kart race from a 2-day show and my ears are ringing because of the noise bouncing off the walls for 2 days straight.
Sure.
So something like that. So I'm with Doug. I think we just kind of wait and see how this goes. If it's not going to, make them sound like little electric cars just going wee by you when they go by, and you still hear the sound. It's just a few decibels down. That I think it'd be fine. I think time will tell. We're just gonna have to do it and see what it's like.
Doug, do you think it's suffice to say that we've got pansies now? And God, that's not a word I want to say in a mean way, but we've got people that they're not looking at what is the future for the sport. And I know people don't like change, but sometimes change is good. I always talk about COVID. I know there's a lot of things that are negative that came from COVID, but there's also a lot of things that we can take from COVID that we learned during the pandemic to make things be better of what we have today. Is the same could be said about NASCAR, Doug, with what you've done 30 years in the sport?
Change is, there's a saying, I think Tom Jensen wrote it the first time I ever saw it. Race fans despise two things: change and the way things are. So, and I've got to admit, it's the truth. They'll swear at you for changing something, but in the same breath, they'll tell you how awful it is right now. So,
right.
That is a truism. There's no way around that. So
it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Exactly. I was going to say that. It really is. And I do think for racing in general, especially NASCAR, and that's the part that I care about, to stay current, you have to be aware of the world around you a little bit and reflect changes like that. I don't think the muffler thing is going to be a big deal. They've got to see if it works. They've got to see if it's practical. I know they said one of the problems they had was that it does make the cars hotter. So they've got to figure out a way to dissipate that heat and not add weight to the cars. So that's a question. Let's see how it goes. If what I heard from the cars in Phoenix and my own life experience of watching race cars run with mufflers, I think it's much ado about nothing. That's my take on it. I know there are other people. Frankly, I wouldn't be bothered if I was sitting in the grandstands, being able to talk to my wife or buddies during part of the race, because now you can't. If you're sitting in Bristol and you're trying to carry on a conversation, forget it. It's not happening. And I think it'll still be loud enough that you're not going to be able to do that.
And can I say this, and Doug, you've been in the booth at Bristol, so have I before with the cars on the track. They are so loud that sometimes they overpower the noise in behind the glass in the press box. That's how loud it is, especially when we get them all out there.
We have challenges when we do the race broadcast in Bristol of being able to hear our pit reporters. And they literally will go behind a hauler to try to do their report and hold something up in front of their microphone so we can hear them. If they stand out on pit road, even if they've got the mic right up next to their mouth, you can't hear them. And, Wendy will say, I'm back between these two haulers, so maybe you can hear me. So if they turned it down a decibel or two, it wouldn't bother me. I get it. Some people feel like the sport isn't as macho driven as it once was, and it's probably not. I mean, there are people. I saw a post yesterday by some Yahoo on Twitter complaining that they were putting safer barriers in at North Wilkesboro. Well, back in my day, drivers weren't afraid. Yeah, well, did you not pay attention to what happened? Yeah. Is it the same sport it was when I got in it 30 years ago? No. I still find it highly entertaining. I think that last year's racing as a whole was about as good as you can get. Lead changes, close races, 19 winners, all of this stuff that went on last year. Thought it was fantastic. Yeah, there were some clunkers in there. There's always going to be. But, the NFL doesn't have every game come down to the last 2 minutes either.
That's exactly right. Prime example. Look at the sleep game between the 49ers and the Eagles, which I don't know what
Yeah, the
happened to
Eagles
the
didn't let off the
49ers,
gas,
honestly.
did they?
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of my colleagues in the broadcast booth, Bruce Barrett, says, when you turn on the water, make it scalding and don't turn it off until you reach the
Yeah.
end of the finish line. And then, of course, a phenomenal game that we thought we were going to see between the Bengals and the Chiefs. And I know a lot of people in the world of sports and people, fans in general, hound that player for making the mistake of what he made at the end of the game. But there were so many other mistakes that was made at the Bengals besides that caused the outcome of being what it was for the Chiefs. It was just a great game. And, of course, I love the storylines. First two black African-American quarterbacks to play in the Super Bowl in history of 57 years. Brothers, the Kelsey brothers, one from Philadelphia, one from Kansas City. So a mother's going to be proud. Coach Andy Reid coaching for both teams. And Doug, I know you're a football guy, so, I mean, obviously, are you going with the Chiefs or the Eagles?
I don't like the Eagles. My son-in-law is an Eagles fanatic, but I think the Eagles will handle the Chiefs, and I think they might do it rather handily. I
Really?
think they seem to have so much momentum, and I think I'm gonna if I was in Vegas right now, the Eagles would get my money.
Wow. I got to stick with my Chiefs.
And
I have to.
that's
I've just
not
got to
with
stick
my
with
heart.
Chiefs.
I'd rather the Chiefs win. I like that organization better, but I think the Eagles may be just too much for them.
Hey, Doug, back to NASCAR. Coliseum this week. What's your take? What's some storylines that you think we're going to see here at LA Coliseum this Sunday, preparing for Daytona in 2 weeks?
I thought last year the racing was pretty tame for the most part. One, because these teams went out there and most of them only had one or two of these chassis. We were told yesterday that each team right now has 4 complete chassis. They're allowed 7, so they've got a bigger complement of cars. I think this race will have a lot more sparks and action and rubbing as racing than we saw last year. Simply, if for no other reason.
And if I remember correctly, aren't they starting more cars too? Is it 27?
27 cars that they're going to start. So that's a lot of cars on a little bitty racetrack.
You know what? I announced at Wake County Speedway, and that's a quarter-mile bull ring. And they've had close to 22, 23 late models around that track. So I think they could pull it off. But the excitement, I think, is going to be really cool, too, for sure. Doug, we could go to a couple more things, man. I know we're coming up on the top of the hour. I know you got a crazy schedule. So do I. Another big announcement, Tuesday. Toyota announced that they're expanding the teams. I heard it all over Sirius XM Speedway with Doug Rice driving home from Atlanta on Monday afternoon. Are you going, is it going to be Dale Jr.? Is it going to be Richard Childress? People are saying no. He's dedicated to Chevrolet, bow tie. Is it going to be front row? What do you think of what the Toyota Racing Development Program is going to be? The Toyota Racing is going to expand to 10 teams, and who's going to get it?
I could see the Legacy Motor Club, the Jimmy Johnson, formerly Petty GMS, being courted by Toyota. I just think that could be a move, even though Jimmy ran Chevrolets. If they wave money in front of them and try to prop them up, I could see them going. Maybe Trackhouse. I don't know. See what happens there. But I like the idea. If you're going to be competitive, you're going to win titles, you need more than 6 cars out on the racetrack. Richard Childress is not going to sign with Toyota. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is not going to take a Cup team to Toyota. Those 2 things are absolutely not going to happen.
Even if they waved a bunch of money at them, as the old cliche,
Nope.
money talks, BS walks, you still think they wouldn't do it?
I cannot see Earnhardt or Richard, either one, going away from the bow tie.
Wow.
And Dale Jr., Childress doesn't need the money, and I think Dale Jr.'s legacy would take a hit. Even he would have a hard time. survive.
You know, and it's funny you say that, Doug, because I remember when Dale Earnhardt Jr. left Junior Motorsports or DEI, and he went to Hendrick, and there were so many people that were, engulfed and enraged with that because they couldn't believe that he would do that because obviously Hendrick and Earnhardt, they were nemesis back in the day with the Waltrips. And of course, everybody that's knows Gordon and all that went on at Hendrick and Earnhardt's legacy. Like you said, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of like you.
I just don't see that
him leaving the
happening.
bow tie.
I could see a track house being brought in, or like I said, or maybe this new Legacy Motor Club name team or something like that. But I don't see a big major team doing it, and I sure don't see Richard Childress giving up a lifelong association with Chevrolet to go over there.
I have got one more question for you, Doug, and we'll let you go. I know you're a busy man. I know we got to get off the air here. And that is, what is your take of what NASCAR has got lined up for 75 anniversary, the 75th anniversary of the sport, moving into 25 years from now, a century grind of NASCAR? Where the good, the bad, the ugly of NASCAR as we move into the 75th anniversary.
Well, in the 50th, and I was around for that one too, they named the 50 greatest drivers. I have a feeling they will probably they'll tack on to that. I think you'll see 25 more drivers added to the 50 greatest drivers of NASCAR because there was no Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Denny Hamlin in that group. So that will be happening. I think there'll be a lot of commemorative things. I think it speaks of volumes that NASCAR's been around 75 years. That's a long time for a sanctioning body and a sport that's not the NFL or Major League Baseball to have been around. And, they've evolved a great deal. Last year, TV ratings were up, I think, 4% across the board. We're never going to be the NFL. We're not going to be Major League Baseball, but we can be the best racing organization that we can be and put on a show that can attract people. And as long as there's live sports, there will be a place for this because television loves live sports because people have to watch the TV commercials. You don't DVR sports. You watch it in real time, and that means you have to see that Purina dog chow spot.
Sure. And to elaborate what you said about TV and radio, people are going to love radio. I've always said this, Doug. I don't think radio's ever going to die. I don't think radio's never going to die. It's just a totally different animal, a projection. The way that you orchestrate calling something in sports on radio is totally different than what you're seeing on television.
Well, MTV signed on with the Buggles singing Video Kill the Radio Star. It didn't happen. Okay? We're going to be around. There's a place for the way radio tells the story over television and the fact that it doesn't require your eyeballs on it and you can do other things. So, no, we're always going to have a place.
Doug Rice, always a pleasure. I knew this was going to fly by. Hell, the next time I have you on, I got to give you an hour.
All righty. Just let me know.
Thank you so much, and thank you for what you do. March, Performance Racing Network, and all of your social media. By the way, in closing, I love your new logo that y'all created on the website.
Thank you. I will let Alexis Erickson know that. She put a lot of work into that, so I will let her know.
Hopefully nobody gets mad about that, like we said about change, but I think that's a good one.
So far, the reaction's been positive. Wesley, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you.
Not a problem, Doug. Doug Rice, Performance Racing Network, multiple NMPA awards for the radio network as well as for himself. Mark Garrow. Charles, I bring you in here. A lot that Doug talked about, man. I mean, you hear the good, the bad, the positive of the sport. I got to ask you, though. I wanted to get you here on this, and you were working on something else when me and Doug were talking about it, though. Rain tires. The rain tires. I know you talked about it on your iRacing show, the Press Box Motorsports podcast, but rain tires in NASCAR this year. What's your take of seeing cars race in the rain with the rain tires?
I'm gonna be honest. Road courses, I could see it. I don't know how in the world you're gonna have rain tires for somewhere like Talladega. You could see it when you're this.
No. Let me bring you back to earth here, because it's not on anything like a super speedway, bud. And that goes to show me right there you were working on something else behind the scenes. You didn't hear the whole conversation. I will let you know this real quickly, and the options are: NASCAR has been testing rain tires. Now they're ready to put them into place for select number of events that include the Clash at the Coliseum, North Wilkesboro, Phoenix, Richmond, Milwaukee, New Hampshire, Indianapolis Raceway Park, and Martinsville. Those are your tracks.
I guess we'll see. I'm the person I got to ask, how do you test rain tires? Do you call up people and say, okay, it's raining, hurry up and get out to the racetrack so we can test this? I mean, how do you test a rain tire with no rain? I mean, because I'm pretty sure there's no rain in California for the Clash.
So I will tell you this, Charles, and I know we got to get off the air. I just felt like we could give Doug a few extra minutes because he's just an awesome guest. We always enjoy having him on the program. I will tell you this, Charles, that NASCAR over the last year has went to racetracks when it was in inclement conditions. I think of one, Martinsville. They came the week before the Blue MU 500 playoff race, before we saw the crazy finale where Ross Chastain committed the hell melon and was able to win the race, or at least make it into the playoff championship 4. They tested the cars in the rain and put the rain tires on, and they said that they were successful. So with what they did at Martinsville, they're thinking if they keep it on the small tracks that are under a mile, they think they're going to be okay doing it.
We'll see how it goes. Personally, I like the idea of, there's a strategy involved. Okay, rain is potentially coming, sure. and the team's having to decide, okay, are we going to come in and pit? Do we stay out? Is this going to potentially be a shortened race? Or are we going to make it to the halfway and call the race? I think that adds more strategy to the event than, just throwing out some tires and it running out, finishing the race. That has some strategy, but, having to figure out if it's going to be a shortened race or, say lap 80 of 100, or if they're going to run to lap 50 of 100 and call it good because it's at the halfway point. I think that adds strategy that I like when I watch a race.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And Doug Rice had a lot of great valid points talking about the fact that, and I know this as well at the races that I've been at, Charles, where NASCAR has literally raced and it rained and they spend hours and hours and hours in track prep. And then the next thing you know, you lose the racetrack or you run out of daylight because the track does not have lights. If you have lights, then that's a different story. But, you think of places like Talladega or New Hampshire or, places that don't have lights. Well, okay, now we can be able to, wait for the rain to clear. Obviously, wait for the severe weather to get out of the way because obviously, Charles, they're not going to bring them out on the racetrack with rain tires in a torrential downpour or in a thunderstorm. You got to think about it only. I'm thinking if it's a day where they're calling for scattered showers, okay, and it's going to be raining during the day, not a massive downpour or a frog washer, as colleague and mentor and great friend Ken Squire used to call it. Of that caliber, nothing of that. But I will say though, Charles, that there's so many people that complain about the changes that are being done for the sport. And though I do see their point on some aspect, Charles, change is a good thing. We have to be adaptive to change in anything that we go through in life because nothing is going to remain the same.
I agree.
You agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yes. You couldn't wait to call the fiber optic people, could you? That's what you were doing behind the scenes. I know you were.
No, I was making some other. I was calling Jeff, actually. No, I'm waiting. As soon as we're off here, I'm calling Vexus and getting that appointment scheduled. I was just about through the process of getting it done on the computer. And this is where I was when you were wanting me. You can't see this, but it's a Vexus card.
I see Vexus.
Yes.
I see Vexus.
The lady came by and said, it's day one. You can get our internet service. Like, I'm already on your website. She goes, well, call me. I'll get your installation done free. So that's where I was.
That is a dedicated sales lady right there, hands down, for sure.
Yes, because it's 25 degrees.
For Whataburger.
No. I told her I'd call her back, though. So
let's cue up our theme and get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a great show. With the exception of Tyler Clem being a no-call, no-show. Maybe he had something come up. I'm not sure. He was the winner of the germ-free sprint car shootout inaugural event at Volusia with the USCS sprint cars. Tentatively with the weather, races going on all over. All-Tech Raceway, the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, and they're going to be at East Bay Raceway Park. Oh, my God, USCS Racing Series. They will be with the Outlaw Thunder Tour at Southern Raceway in Milton, Florida this Friday and Saturday, weather permitting. Freedom Factory has the big show going on, and Charles has lost internet again. Or he's just going blurry. What are you doing, Charles?
I'm putting on a blur. I can put a blur effect on my camera.
Can you make me blurry?
Yes.
When we go off the air, can you make me blurry? Can you do that to me?
Yes,
so you
I
make
can.
Me blurry. Let's get off the air here. Let's fade out.
Oh, wait.
Let's fade out of the show.
It's not making anything blurry. Hang on.
It ain't working, buddy. It ain't working.
We're gonna make you blurry one way or another. Hang on a second.
Thank you for everybody joining us on the program. Our guests, and of course, Augie Grill, Bubba. Oh, there you go. Oh, wow. Hologram. Pay no attention to the man at the front of the curtain. Notice I didn't say behind. All right, bring me back. For, of course, wow, that was fast. For Bubba Pollard, Isabella Robusto, Doug Rice Performance Racing Network, all of our guests, we appreciate them being on. Charles, it's always great working with you, buddy.
Yes. But, again, never wanted to get off so fast so I can go get that new internet. Love being here, but...
go get that internet, brother. Go get it. Go get it. For Charles Wood, I'm Wesley Outland. Thanks to Jeff Stabnow. Of course, Mr. James Manning, everybody behind Rocket Racing Media and LSR Productions, Fox Sports Radio with the Carolinas, Community Radio Network, iHeartRadio Sports. Thanks to our sponsors, Crate Insider, MPM Marketing. Be good to one another. I'm Wesley Outland. Thanks you for checking us out. Archives is up in a bit. And Finish Line will be back next Wednesday. You never know who we'll have on. And check out NASCAR this weekend in the Clash at the Coliseum.
Welcome to the Community Radio Network. Follow us always via social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CRN Sports. Plus, listen to the new CRN 87.9 and still anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN.
Let me tell you about MPM. McAllister Precision Marketing. They can assist up-and-coming racers with career advancement, promotion, and assist in sponsorship procurement. MPM also has media and professional etiquette training. They work with premier driver development teams and limited late models to late models. And they also help the teams to make it up to the levels of K&N, ARCA, Truck Series, and even NASCAR Xfinity. Contact Tanya McAllister today at McAllister Precision Marketing, 803-361-6199. Today, get on the board with MPM.
CrateInsider.com is your one source for crate racing tech and more. Whether you currently race with a crate engine or you are thinking about getting into the sport, our website has what you need. CrateInsider.com has tech videos, interviews with experts, and the best products in the industry. Dyno tested and proven, so we know they are the best products for crate engines. Visit CrateInsider.com today to get on the fast track to victory lane.
This episode is an exclusive production solely for the private, non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any publication, reproduction, transmission of the accounts without the express written consent or permission is restricted and prohibited. To hear this replay or other previous podcasts, download on iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, and TuneIn. As always, this show is for you. Thank you for listening.